People can't believe what they're seeing out of Lamar Jackson as he has former players' jaws dropping after his latest performance against the Denver Broncos in Week 9. We talk about that, the Ravens continuing to be linked to pass rusher moves, and a lot more coming up next year on this episode of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here today, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We're free and available for you on podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe, and also in audio form. You can follow along and subscribe there as well. We bring you 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage, so be sure to tell a friend, tell a family member that we have you and them covered for Locked On Ravens and Ravens content. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens here on Victory Monday is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Baltimore Ravens, they defeat the Denver Broncos in Week 9. Not only defeat, they absolutely destroy the Denver Broncos 41-10. And Lamar Jackson, another jaw-dropping performance. And he has the jaws dropping everywhere. Me, of course, being one of those people of just his greatness. This is the best Lamar Jackson we've seen. We've heard it. And he has former players. We'll talk about what Nate Burleson had to say about Lamar in the first part of the show. And Bo Nix was super complimentary. Even current players, right? Like Bo, his opponents respect him. The league respects him. Seems like all of his peers do. And I wish that same energy will be kept across everybody who is able to watch him. So we'll talk about what people are saying about Lamar, especially because, look, to me, I talked about this on the live show after the game. To me, he's running away with the MVP at this point. Then in the second part of the show, obviously the trade deadline coming up tomorrow. Absolutely crazy that we're already to this point, but this Ravens team has the opportunity to go out there and make moves to improve their team. So we're going to be talking in the second part of the show about what moves the Ravens could make and why they continue to be linked to pass rushers, because at this point they certainly need one after what we've seen out of that pass rush group over the last month or so. So we'll talk about potential names. And then finally, we'll dive into a Ravens and Broncos recap and just generally talk about the game the day after here. So let's dive into the content. Again, former players just, can't get enough of Lamar. They keep talking about him. And Nate Burleson, after the fact, actually, Nate Burleson, by the way, pre-post and in the middle at halftime, he was going all to bat for Lamar Jackson. And at halftime, he was talking about the Ravens pick your poison offense, which obviously Lamar Jackson has dubbed that, right? Derrick Henry had a strong message also about Lamar and his MVP, which Derrick Henry did call Lamar's MVP. He said, quote, "It all starts with Lamar. He opens it up for everybody. He's so dynamic. He makes everybody's job easier. The MVP is his. He deserves it. MVP, MV3. So Derrick Henry, because Tracy Wolfson asked both of them after the game, he said, all right, well, you two might have to duke it out for MVP. I think the way obviously is going, you got Derrick Henry, who, in my opinion, he's the guy for Offensive Player of the Year. Lamar Jackson, I agree with Derrick Henry here. That's a statement, right? Hey, MVP, that's his. Give it to Lamar. Derrick Henry going to bat for his guy, but Nate Burleson going to bat for Lamar. Here's the quote from after the game. Nate Burleson said, Lamar Jackson is playing with the most composure in all of the NFL. That's why they call him MV3. Week in and week out, they can choose whoever they want to attack your specific weaknesses. And it's true. I mean, where's the lie? Where's the lie? Depending on where your weaknesses are and how you choose to defend this Ravens team, the Ravens have the horsepower to go out there and give you 10 different looks like we saw against Denver on Sunday, to the point where, they can run play action off of you. They can run just straight runs right at you. They can work over to the middle of the field. They can take deep shots. They can go in the short and intermediate stuff. I could continue to go on and on and on with that. to the point where the Ravens averaged over 13 yards per pass in this game. They averaged over 7 yards per play in this game. And of course, we'll talk a little bit more about the general specifics of the Denver game in the final part of the show. But this is just the latest example of how the Ravens can beat teams. And it adds to it because every week it seems like it's something different, but it's the same types of principles that goes into their performance. And it leaves teams flabbergasted. They always use the saying, and we talk a lot about it here too on Locked On Ravens. It's okay keeping defensive coordinators up at night. What keeps defensive coordinators up at night? Well, I'll certainly tell you that game planning for this Lamar Jackson led Ravens offense, as it is right now, is the hardest thing in football. It's not even close. The Ravens have the best rushing offense in the league. They have the best passing offense in the league. You have dynamic playmakers all over the ball. You have a historic great at running back. You have a historic great at quarterback. I mean, how do you defend it? Because if you decide to bring your guys up in the box and sell out to stop the running game, well, the receivers are too good to the point where you can't leave them alone. So then, all right, you work play action off of that if you're trying to, get some chunk yardage. And then if the defenders back off and you're like, all right, well, as a defensive coordinator, we say, okay, well, we got to go. And now we got to stop the passing game. Well, it's not very fun tackling Derrick Henry when there aren't enough guys in the box to stop him. So that's just where it is right now. I mean, this Ravens team, this offense, and I say this all the time, this is the best version of Lamar we've seen. This is the best version of the Ravens offense that we've seen. And to me, I mean, it's crazy because we say, how can they top this performance? How can they top this performance? And every week, for the most part, right, obviously it's not just a continuous line up, but at the end of the day, man, we see it each and every single week with just the different ways that this Ravens offense can beat you. And in my opinion, you look at how it is right now. Obviously, every Ravens fan, the Ravens, it's playoffs, right? We know the Ravens are a good regular season team under John Harbaugh. They've been that way. But the way this offense is now, man, if they can just figure out that defense, we're going to talk about that coming up. I mean, it's hard to imagine who stops this team other than the Ravens. And, Ronnie Stanley talked about that. And even on the broadcast, Tony Romo was saying that, any mistake on a Baltimore drive or what stalls out Baltimore, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, actually, I might have it. I might have written it out, but I just didn't post it because I think the Ravens scored here it is. Yeah, Ravens scored a touchdown on the next play or something. Tony Romo said, the only stops on a Baltimore drive, they hurt themselves. That just is what it is, where it's the mistakes piling up. We didn't really see a lot of that, obviously, against Denver here. That first drive after the interception was one, but then you just saw the creativity from Todd Monken, and we see that. But if they get too cute, sometimes it can be a hindrance. But you have Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. You don't have to overthink it too much. So former players marveling at Lamar. Bo Nix and Lamar showed respect at the end of the game, and Bo was, raving about him. And look, you see across the league, it gets harder and harder to stop this Ravens team because usually over the course of the season, it's like, all right, well, the book is out on this, the book is out on that. There's no book for Lamar Jackson. There's no book for how to stop Lamar Jackson. And he even added to that against Denver. You want to know how much of a nightmare it is for defenses to defend Lamar Jackson? When he gets out of that pocket, now he's drawing pass interference penalties. Now he's going out there and drawing defensive holding penalties, right? I guess it's more defensive holding than pass interferences, but we saw that when he was able to get out of the pocket and extend plays, that's, 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds that end up going off. And that's really hard. That's straining your defense. And guys just can't cover for that long on a consistent basis. And all of a sudden, you have a situation where now guys have to grab and hold to make sure that they can stay stuck to a guy, and the refs are picking up on that. And so we saw multiple times over the course of this game that Lamar was picking the Ravens up 5 extra yards here and there, picking up automatic first downs on second down. That's the type of stuff that makes Lamar so dangerous on top of everything else. And that is why, Derrick Henry is very adamant of him, obviously being an MVP, being the MVP. And with Derrick, what he said there at the post game, it all starts with Lamar. Yeah, everybody does their job and everybody executes, and that's great. But man, this offense, Lamar Jackson is this offense. Derrick Henry and everybody else adds to it, and they do great jobs of adding to it. But Lamar Jackson, man, there's not enough that I could sit here for 3 hours every day and talk about Lamar Jackson because he is just that special of a talent. We have been seeing it all this season, all over the course of his career about how good of a player he is, and we're still seeing Lamar evolve each and every single week here at the NFL level. Coming up in the second part of the show, though, we'll take a little bit of a break from the Ravens and Broncos game. Well, we'll talk about it a little bit too, just for context. But trade deadline coming up. We have it tomorrow. So we'll be talking about the Ravens continuing to be linked to pass rushers and so much more coming up next year on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat at the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a hands-on 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privilege of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product-specific disclosures. Visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. And the show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to 100 times your cash. Earn your game all season long on Prize Picks. And I love going on Prize Picks, seeing everything they have to offer over there. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select pair projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. So for the Ravens and Broncos game, if you had more on Lamar Jackson, passing yards, more on Zay Flowers, receiving yards, probably living large over on Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 into after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 into after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. We're back for our second segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Victory Monday edition of the show. Appreciate everybody for being here again today, making Locked On Ravens both a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Just hit 9,000 subscribers on the video side of things on YouTube. Can't thank everybody enough for the support, whether you're an everydayer, it's your first time into the show, or if you're somewhere in the middle. 10,000 obviously is the next big goal. And for those who don't know, the first day this channel started up in video form, I ended up saying that I would wear a full Dixie Cup color outfit for a full week once we hit 10K. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe button in video form. And also the audio community it's been such a great place. Obviously we started off over there. And for all the audio listeners out there, I can't say enough about the audio community and just the communities we've built up in general. It has been incredible. And the Ravens, what an incredible game. Look at that transition. What an incredible game that was. 41-10, just pure decimation. But despite that, there were still certainly some things that the Ravens could have improved on, specifically defensively. Yes, Baltimore had 4 sacks in this game, but it felt like Bo Nix had all day to throw. This pass rush just continues to, I guess, underwhelm is the word I would use. And as such, Baltimore continues to be linked to potential pass rush trades. You know, we have article from The Athletic saying that if Eric DeCosta makes another move following the Deontay Johnson deal, likely to address the defensive side of the ball is what this article is saying here. Adding a pass rusher might be the biggest priority, but you could make a case for defensive back as well. Essentially, what this article says is the Ravens haven't consistently impacted the opposing quarterback, and, you know, they have depth concerns along the interior of the line, which is all true. So when you look at that, we have heard the Ravens be linked to guys like Jadeveon Clowney or Calais Campbell. I think a guy like Arden Key in Tennessee, his name is popped up here and there. Is Azeez Ojulari an option? Darius Smith at the time of this recording seems like he's going to Detroit. We'll kind of see if that gets finalized or not. But based off of everything, and even this goes back a couple days ago, a couple weeks ago, seems like even before the Deontay Johnson deal, everybody's talking about the Ravens. And okay, yeah, pass rusher. That's the thing, because the Ravens had a scalding start to the year in that department. Kyle Van Noy was just balling out, and Rafe Owe was making plays, and David Ajabo had a play here and there, and they signed Yannick Ngakoue, and Ngakoue gets involved. But it just feels like far too often this team, and even on the interior where they are battling injuries, quarterbacks are just having time to stand in the pocket. They're surveying the field. And, as this article from The Athletic says, yeah, they're not impacting the quarterback the way that they need to. And that is a huge, huge issue. So for me, it makes sense the Ravens are being linked to a bunch of pass rushers. I would be pretty shocked if the Ravens didn't add a pass rusher. I mean, there's obviously a possibility they don't, but we can all look at what we've seen over this last month or so. We can all look at the impact that not having a pass rush has had. It's had an impact on the secondary, and not having a secondary that can cover at times has impacted the pass rush. It goes hand in hand. We have talked about it before. And to me, you have a bunch of quality options. So it really is a matter of, can you improve this team? And I think you can if you're the Ravens. You have 11 draft picks. That Deontay Johnson deal was a pick swap essentially with Deontay. So that number did not go up or down. You still have 11. I think you use that to your advantage if you're Eric DeCosta. I think I would love Azeez Ojulari in Baltimore. I think that's probably my top guy. But it would make a lot of sense if a guy like Clowney gets traded to Baltimore. That they're missing his physicality. I know, again, we mentioned Calais Campbell too. Miami's sitting there, and they're 2-7 or 2-6 now, I think, because they had their bye week. So, at this point, do you really feel like you're gonna go anywhere? Calais is 38? Is Calais 38 years old now? Let's look this up quickly. Do a little Locked On Ravens research. Calais Campbell, 38 years old. Unreal. And he's playing like a top 5 defensive lineman right now, by the way. I think he's top 5 in pass rush win rate along the interior. Maybe that was prior to the start of this week, but he's been incredible. And as a leader, you definitely have to manage those snaps for sure. But I think that's a perfect fit, especially because, again, Michael Pierce is on IR. Brent Urban, you're hoping is back soon from the concussion. Travis Jones just is not healthy right now. You got to get him right from the ankle. I think Calais Campbell makes a lot of sense. And, everybody sees it, right? Everybody sees the pass rush is an issue, because we talk about this with this Ravens team. We talked about it in the first part of the show. Passing offense, historic. Rushing offense, historic. Rushing defense. It's a great rush defense Baltimore has. It's the pass defense. It's that final phase. So if you can get that final phase going, and what does pass defense involve? It involves rushing the passer, and it involves covering, right? It involves getting home on the defensive side of the ball and on that defensive line. And also it involves covering the guys to make sure the quarterbacks can't throw the ball effectively. It goes hands in hands with each other. There are plenty of pass rushing options available for the Ravens, and I think that they definitely need to make a move there. And, based off of everything, my prediction is that they do add a pass rusher, especially because, we've heard a lot of rumblings there from a lot of different people. And, I feel like at this point, the Ravens have an opportunity with this offense. Like we talked about last season. Why was last season so disappointing for the Ravens in terms of the result? Obviously, it's always tough when you lose in the playoffs. But for me, at least, and I think a lot of other people too, last year felt like the year. Felt like they had the roster. Felt like they had the coaching staff, but no two teams are the same. No two offenses are the same. No two defenses. No two coaching staffs. Everything is different year to year. So Mike McDonald is no longer in Baltimore. They lost a lot of guys defensively, lost a lot of coaches. And I feel like if they can add a pass rusher, it already kind of feels like, oh, this could be the year again, but they need to take advantage of this. Eric DeCosta is always working, always looking to make his team better. But we know the Ravens love their draft picks. If there was a time for the Ravens to, maybe just let loose a little bit and trade a little more draft capital than they're used to, like, hey, that Roquan deal for a second. Obviously, Roquan hasn't really been the Roquan we know this season, but that has been a home run. maybe the Ravens go out there and make a splash. I know everybody's talking about Max Crosby. I get it. I would love it, but I just don't think the Raiders move him, even though they are just dismal right now. I think it's more likely than ever they do, but I still think they don't. But that would be a win now, needle mover type of move. The other moves, are you winning the Super Bowl because you traded for Jadeveon Clowney? No, but Jadeveon Clowney would help. Do you win the Super Bowl because you trade for Calais Campbell? No, not because Calais Campbell's there, but he helps the bigger goal. That's what it comes down to here. The move to me doesn't have to be quote unquote needle moving, but it has to have enough of an impact, right? Don't just trade to trade, make a move that makes an impact. That to me is the big factor here as we look ahead. So for this team, there's a lot that they can do, but what will they do? That's obviously the question here over the next 36 plus hours. Coming up in the final part of the show, we'll continue talking about the Ravens and Broncos game. Obviously, get into a recap of that because, man, it was a good one for the Baltimore Ravens. That's what I have to say about that. We'll have a lot more to say coming up in the final part of the show. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. A lot to talk about here on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Time is their most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, Introduction to Free Market Economics, and so much more. And they also have things like the Great American Story, A Land of Hope, which can really get the mind going. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register, hillsdale.edu/lockedon. And the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So to get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. We're going to start with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And this show is brought to you by DK Law Group. When you need a law firm, do you want the legal runaround, or would you rather have a no-nonsense approach? Well, you get the latter with DK Law Group. DK Law Group is a Maryland-based law firm who is redefining the legal process with their modern approach. DK Law Group specializes in real estate law, estate planning, business law, and family law. They're tech-savvy, they treat clients like family, and they focus on keeping your legal solutions simple. DK Law Group is a woman-led firm with Diana Khan at the helm. Diana has been called an unparalleled legal expert by some. One of the things we'll quickly notice with DK Law Group is their transparent pricing. They believe in clarity and cost, and no one left in limbo. DK Law Group knows that speed is key, but leveraging technology, DK Law Group streamlines the process to serve you better and faster. Contact DK Law Group today, dklawmd.com. Locked On listeners and call today to schedule a free 30-minute consultation when you mention the tagline, Empowering Legacies. We're back. Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher here with you on this Monday edition of the show. Appreciate everybody, again, for being here today and making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen as well. Ravens beat the Broncos 41-10. Lamar Jackson masterclass. Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry, offensively, even defensively, they bounced back, which I thought was really nice to see. Still some things to work on, but this Ravens team needed a win. To have 4 AFC losses through 9 weeks would have just been disastrous. So they were good for them to get this win, honestly, because they absolutely did need it. Now, in terms of an actual recap of this game, let's start with Lamar Jackson. I mean, we have to, right? There's no sense in not doing it because he just was that good. 16 of 19 for Lamar Jackson, 280 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. Of course, no interceptions. Again, Lamar has been a very low-mistake player this season. But then you have the 158.3, a perfect passer rating for Lamar Jackson. Ben Roethlisberger has the NFL record with 4 of those games. Lamar Jackson now has 4 of those games. He almost had 5 of them. That Tampa game, he finished at 158.1, so just 0.2 off of another one. But Lamar's dialed in right now. I mean, I can't say it enough. What am I going to say? I think you know. This is the best version of Lamar we've ever seen. But I can't stop saying it because it's so true. To where, and I make this comparison all the time, we were sitting here in 2019 talking about, well, one of these offensive numbers is going to be broken. This offense is so historic. Are we ever going to see anything like this again? And 2024, Lamar Jackson, this 2024 Ravens offense just is absolutely taking it to teams. Look at the team stats. I mentioned a couple of them in the first part of the show. The Ravens average 13.5 yards per pass, 7.3 yards per play, have almost 400 total yards in this game. And while the Ravens, they only averaged 3.7 yards per rush, I thought Denver's rushing defense actually was pretty good over the majority of the game for the most part. The Ravens just picked this Denver secondary apart. And this defense is no slouch, by the way, right? The Ravens put up 41 points on the best defense in the NFL. The Ravens offense is matchup proof. It is. I guess it's matchup proof in the sense that they can beat any other opposing defense. Can they beat themselves? I think that's a weekly battle that they have to go through sometimes. But it's true. Like Lamar in this Ravens offense, they're humming on all cylinders. And you look at these numbers like, hey, 3 of 8 on third down isn't particularly great. Like it's fine. It's under 50%, but it's not particularly great. Only having 8 third down attempts in the game is because they were so dominant on first and second downs that they didn't have to get to third a bunch. And that's great. I mean, you look here and for Baltimore, you have everybody contributing. Again. Now, Zay Flowers definitely dominated the receiver target share and even just yard share. Obviously, it was 127 on 5 catches for Zay. Next closest guy was 3 for 43 with Justice Hill. But again, you have Zay with 6 targets, Rashad Bateman with 4. Rashad had, a couple big catches, but also a tough drop again in this game. So that's 2 weeks with at least one tough drop for Rashad. But, then you have Justice and Mark, and then you get Nelson Aguilar and Derrick Henry with a couple of big 20-plus yard receptions. That Ricard gets involved with a touchdown. It's just like you try to stop one guy, and then 2 other guys come out of nowhere. Deontay Johnson didn't play a ton in this game and didn't have a ton of snaps. I obviously expect that to change as he gets more acclimated. But again, like the Ravens just have so much they can throw at you. They do. And this offensive line, when they're humming, it's thing on top of thing on top of thing. I mentioned Derrick Henry, 23 for 106 and 2 touchdowns. That's 4.6 yards per carry. Those are fine numbers. But again, I think we're so used to Derrick with, 200-yard almost games and, these dominant plays here and there. The Denver defense, I thought, did a decent job of stopping Derrick Henry and the Ravens rushing attack. But Lamar Jackson was so good with his arm in this game. It just did not matter whatsoever. On the defensive side of the ball, Kyle Hamilton led this team with 10 tackles, Trenton Simpson with 9. I thought Trenton played really well in this game. I think Trenton should be able to play more. I hope that the Ravens can make that adjustment and have Trenton on the field more because he looked good, looked fast, looked confident. Really good Trenton Simpson game. Really good Tavius Robinson game in this one. Tavius had a couple of sacks to his name in this game and was really good disruptor, making life really hard for Bo Nix in the offense. But again, the pass rush still overall was not great. I thought Tavius was great, but they weren't really getting any other contributions. I mean, you had Trenton who had a sack, and the last sack, who'd the last sack go to? Malik Harrison had that last sack. But Odafe Owe got held a little bit in the game, right? I think we saw that. But David Ajabo, healthy scratch for the second straight week. Adisa Isaac, inactive. Kyle Van Noy in this game had 3 tackles. You need more from the pass rush in general, right? In general, you need more from the pass rush. Marcus Williams got mossed by Bo Nix, but first play of the game established, I think here's what I'll say about Marcus. Marcus Williams, I think, established the tone of this game for the Ravens. Shout out to Marcus for that. Marcus got mossed by Bo Nix. Not so great moment for Marcus on that one. Crazy catch by Bo Nix. And I guess for Marcus, it's kind of like, okay, like, of course, it's on Marcus Williams. But then you have Roquan Smith, who had 3 tackles in this game, got blown by Bo Nix on a couple of plays, and just does not look in shape, does not look like Roquan that we've seen in recent seasons. That's the big concern for a lot of people right now. So it's tough because if Roquan can get back to his level, and if the Ravens can add a pass rusher and that pass defense can get shored up, man, I mean, that's scary hours, but are we ever going to get there? Are we ever going to get there? We're 9 weeks into the season now. Roquan's being asked to do a lot by Zach Orr, and maybe he's playing through an injury. But again, it's been a very steep drop-off for Roquan based off of what we have seen from him over his time in Baltimore and his time in Chicago even. The Ravens did get lucky too. Bo Nix did not have a great game in this one. Had a couple of big overthrows, especially on that 4th down play early. The Broncos went 1 of 5 on 4th down. They were really committed to it. But at the end of the day, it was no dice for that Denver offense. Javonte Williams, 3.5 yards per carry. It was really Bo Nix that did the damage, and Audric Estime who did the damage. 6 for 36 for Bo and 5 for 35 for Estime. Javonte, 12 for 42. Cortland Sutton had a really good game, 7 for 122. So again, Baltimore has to shore up that pass defense. If they can do that, I think it'll be a really good time for this Ravens team moving forward. That's all I have for you here today, though, on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show today. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on the way out in video form and on the way out in audio form. Be sure to follow along and subscribe over there as well. Again, 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Coming up tomorrow, more Ravens talk. Obviously, I think with the trade deadline being tomorrow, we'll get plenty into the Ravens and any trade that happens. And if there is a trade, by the way, we are going to be going live for that. Stay tuned for what we have coming up here on Locked On Ravens, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.